Heart disease is the leading cause of death in the United States. The term heart disease refers to several types of heart conditions. In the U.S., the most common type of heart disease is coronary artery disease, which can lead to a heart attack. You can greatly reduce your risk for heart disease through lifestyle changes and, in some cases, medicine. If you have a heart attack, you're more likely to survive if you know the signs and symptoms. Call 911 right away and get to a hospital quickly. People who have had a heart attack can also reduce the risk of future heart attacks or even strokes by making some lifestyle changes and taking your medication. Hello and welcome to Healthy Connections. I'm Annetta Wilson, your host. Healthy Connections is a show dedicated to exploring a wide variety of topics from prenatal care to Alzheimer's disease. And we do so with a wide variety of perspectives, from the professionals that help treat the syndromes to everyday people like you and me who may have personal experience dealing with these topics on a first-hand basis. Stay tuned for Healthy Connections. Heart disease is the leading cause of death for men and women in the United States. But how can we prevent this horrible disease? Vice Chair of Cardiology at Orlando Health, Dr. P. Phillips Hospital, Dr. Swati Kohli, is here to shed some light on that. Dr. Kohli, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's really my pleasure and honor.
So let's start with the basics. What does our heart do for us?
So heart does a lot of things, right? So heart does not rest since, from when you're born till you die, it beats every day, every second. So the main function of the heart is to supply oxygen to the body so your body can function. So heart pumps so that it can pump blood, and the blood takes the oxygen to your tissues. So your tissues get the oxygen so they can function. So it has a very important role of supplying what is the most important nutrient to the body.
So piggybacking on what you just said about nutrients, we hear a lot about a heart healthy diet. What is that?
So heart healthy diet is, so there are many diets out there. And one of the most proven diet is a Mediterranean diet. The second one you probably heard about is a DASH diet. In nutshell, you want to eat as natural as possible, as healthy as possible. Stay away from processed food. Stay away from processed sugars, salt. Plant-based diet better than animal-based diet. There is more and more research coming out. So one thing I tell my patients is if you're opening a tin can or a packet, it tends to be processed diet. So if you're getting produce fresh from the plants, that is very good for your heart. So eat a lot of greens, a lot of colors, berries, greens, and healthy protein, preferably plant-based protein compared to animal-based protein. In animal-based proteins, we do prefer fish, and we prefer fresh fish that are not farmed and with high fat content like salmon.
Okay, so let's talk about the symptoms when our hearts are not doing what they're supposed to do. What are the symptoms of a heart attack?
So the most common symptom of the heart attack still in men and women tends to be chest pain. It could be associated with some shortness of breath, some nausea. Some people feel that their heart is racing. In addition, people could have jaw pain, neck pain, shoulder pain. All of these symptoms, extreme fatigue is another symptom. All of these symptoms are symptoms of heart attack.
Do symptoms of heart attack present differently in men than women?
Yes, they do. Having said that, chest pain still tends to be the most common symptom in both men and women. However, women are more common to present with atypical symptoms, and those would be fatigue, nausea, pain in the upper part of the stomach. Sometimes it could be just neck pain, sometimes it could be just jaw pain, and not be associated with the chest pain. Some women feel extreme fatigue. That's another symptom that we see with women. So that's the reason why when they come through the ER, there is a little bit of a lag in diagnosing these symptoms, because they don't present with very common symptoms that men present.
So if you notice any of these things happening, what should you do?
So, if you have any of these symptoms that you feel are getting worse with time, first thing that you should probably do is ask for help. Somebody who's around you, somebody, friend, family, whoever who can get to you really fast. Then, if you can, take chewable aspirin, chew about 4 aspirins, um, depending on the strength, obviously, but chew about 4 aspirins and call for help and get yourself to the closest healthcare facility that can treat a heart attack.
So 911 is the first thing you want to do.
That is
So
correct.
for people who've already had a heart attack, how likely is a second heart attack?
Very likely. So once you have had a heart attack, your chances of heart attack are extremely high. And that is the reason why risk factor control becomes very, very important. So we want to control everything that contributed to the heart attack in the first place.
And from what I'm hearing you say, diet is one of the first and easiest ways to do that. How much does exercise play a part?
Definitely, exercise has a very big role in heart health. In general, if you do exercise, one thing that you can do is you can probably detect symptoms of a blockage long before you have a heart attack, because you start having symptoms of exercise intolerance. Every time you exercise, you could notice chest pain or shortness of breath. In addition, exercise also opens up these small arteries that are dormant in your heart, and we call as microvasculature or microcirculation. And if you do have a heart attack, for somebody who has this microvasculature open, the damage from the heart attack could be minimized.
And we're talking
So,
about simple things like walking. You're not talking about joining a gym and going 5 or 6 times a week.
absolutely simple things like walking, slow jogging, even um, biking. For people who have joint pains, biking is a good form of exercise. Swimming, any aerobic exercise
So
is
just
really good for heart.
get moving.
Get moving, get your heart rate moving, increase your heart rate as you're exercising. That's very important.
Thank you, Dr. Coley, for shedding some light on a very serious problem in this country, heart disease. We appreciate you being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
We'll be back with more of Healthy Connections right after this. The American Heart Association is synonymous with heart disease research and educating consumers on healthy living. It fosters appropriate care to reduce disabilities and deaths caused by cardiovascular disease and stroke. Joining us now is LaSonia Landry, the Executive Director of the Orlando office of the American Heart Association. Thank you for joining us.
So excited to be here.
I'm
Thanks.
excited that you're here. We've heard about the Heart Association, but how do you tell people what your mission is?
So it's simple. I usually tell them we are a relentless force for a world of longer, healthier lives. And really what that means is we do anything and everything we can to have people get to their optimum heart health. And then also we do that through research, we do that through programming, but ideally what we want people to do is live a longer, healthier life.
So let's talk about the programming piece, because I think we know the Heart Association is big into research, and we can talk about that too. What are some of the programs that you're most proud of or that you wish people knew more about?
Sure. So, oh God, there's so many. So one is CPR in schools. So last June, Governor DeSantis signed into law for the state of Florida CPR in schools as a graduation requirement. And I'm proud of that because here locally, we had already passed in Orange, Seminole, and Osceola counties that through the school districts. But what that does is it trains high school students in hands-only CPR. And so ultimately you're creating this next generation of lifesavers. I'm very proud of that. That's something that my team and I have worked really hard on. And every year we train over 30,000 students locally.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's exciting.
So I would guess other than if you're not a parent, you don't really know.
You don't know that that's happening, right?
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And then nutrition security. So we work a lot with local pantries to assess the foods that they have, and the idea is really to make sure that just because the vulnerable populations are visiting the pantries, they also are having access to healthier food options.
Is a big piece of that education, because we hear good nutrition, but what is that?
So, you know, it's funny that you say that. It's not just going in and telling someone you should eat this versus this, but it's also, do you know how to prepare it? Do you know how to shop in the grocery store for healthier options? We call it shopping the outer aisle or shopping the rainbow, looking for color in your diet. So we really want to make sure that consumers know that, but then also pantries are aware of that too, so they can help their patrons when they come through their doors.
So what's next in terms of research? I mean, I know you could go in a million different directions to talk about it, but what is the thing that you want people to be most aware of?
The biggest thing I want them to be aware of is that the Heart Association really is fighting to find a cure for cardiovascular disease. We have something called One Brave Idea, where we invested $75 million for a team of researchers, and their sole purpose is to find a cure for heart disease. And I know that people have all these different notions of it's hereditary and if you just have more, better diet or exercise more. But at the end of the day, it's so much deeper. And so we're trying to find that cure.
That sounds like a gargantuan task. I mean, is this, how easy is it going to be to get your arms around something that huge?
It's not going to be easy.
Okay.
And the team of researchers, this was something that people from all over the world submitted their ideas and their research teams to be a part of this One Brave Idea. And so it's something that it's not going to be found in a year. It's not going to be found in 5 years. This is going to be ongoing. But ultimately, the idea is that we will find a cure for heart disease. Do
people think this is an inevitable disease? We hear it's the #1 killer. Of Americans, 1 in 5.
Yep.
So is this something that people tend to say, well, it's going to happen no matter what I do?
I hear that a lot, but what I think is most important is that it's also 80% preventable. So, if you take time and you go for those extra walks, or you really do watch what you're eating, and what you're more prone to based on your DNA, then I think that it is something that is preventable. So inevitable is sort of a strong word, but it's also something that you have the opportunity to combat if you know what causes it.
Easiest changes to make to start combating heart disease?
I would say try to walk or try to get in any exercise, 15, 20, even 30 minutes a day. And then honestly, be aware of what you're eating, your salt intake, your caloric intake, cholesterol, things like that. Know your numbers is what we always tell people.
And it's so much easier now because everything you buy has that list of what's in it and how much and what colors and all of that.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you said shop the perimeter of the grocery store, because that's usually where the fresh fruits and vegetables are, and the eggs and cheese and all of that. So if you could tell young people something to do now so that they don't end up worrying about heart disease when they're in their 40s or 50s, what would you tell them?
I would say know your numbers and know your history. I think that those are the two most important things for anybody. Know your numbers, know your history, know your family history, and know your numbers. Know your cholesterol, know your blood pressure. Those are all things that are simple to get from a quick doctor visit, even a quick trip to a pharmacy. You can test your blood pressure. So that to me is most important.
So we've got more opportunities than ever to make sure we do know our numbers. LaSonia, thank you for all your work.
Well, thank you.
We want to help you get those numbers down because that's healthy for all of us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
We will be back right after this. Stay with us. Heart disease is the #1 killer of men and women in this country, but there are things that we can do. Eat more fresh fruits and vegetables, leaner proteins, and for all of that advice, get moving. Something as simple as taking a walk every day could make the difference between life and being here to make healthy connections. We want you to stay healthy, and we're going to do our part.